Dinner time is stressful enough without having to worry about whether we can actually afford to feed our family healthy, nourishing meals. I have some really good ideas for you for this week's meal plan. All of these meals will cost right around $1 per serving, and I think your family is really going to enjoy them. I'm really excited to bring some new twists to some old recipes, and also I did come up with a couple of new ideas. So I hope you enjoyed today's video. I hope you will give these recipes a try, and also be sure to let me know what are some of your family's favorite inexpensive meal ideas as well. If you are new here, I'm Lori. This is Homemade Simple. I'm really glad that you're here, and if you were looking for new ideas to feed your family healthy, nourishing meals on a budget, you're in the right place. I hope you'll subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Be sure to give the video a like. It really helps to get it out to more and more families, and I hope you enjoyed today's video. Let's get started. Okay, let's start with this beef skillet recipe. I just sort of came up with this idea because I had picked up some mixed vegetables at Costco. I also had some ground beef that needed to be used up, and I was really just trying to come up with something simple and easy to put together. I did not have a lot of mental energy to put toward making some kind of extravagant meal. So this is what I came up with, and honestly, it was a lot better than I expected. It was just really so flavorful, and I really enjoyed it. The first thing I did was brown my ground beef, and once that was done, I'm just gonna put it in another bowl and saute about half of an onion. You can use as much onion as you want. This is just sort of what I had left over from a previous recipe. I sauteed that in the skillet using the leftover flavoring from the hamburger meat, and then after the onion was nice and tender, I added 3 cups of mixed vegetables. I got this huge bag of mixed vegetables from Costco. It was really affordable, and this is an ingredient that's really good to keep in your freezer so that whenever you have one of those days where you don't feel like putting a lot of effort into dinner, you can put that with a protein and throw together a couple of other ingredients, and you will have dinner ready to go in no time. I also am going to add 1 cup of beef broth and 2 tablespoons of coconut aminos. Now, coconut aminos is just really an alternative to soy sauce. So if you have soy sauce, you can just replace this interchangeably. I like it because it's a little bit of a healthier version than soy sauce, but you can use it interchangeably in any recipe. At the end, I still felt like it needed a little something maybe to cream it up a bit. So I had some cottage cheese that needed to be used up. I added 1 cup of cottage cheese to the skillet and mixed it in well. I think next time I make this, I will use either cream cheese or sour cream. It tasted really good, but I wasn't able to cream the cottage cheese in the way that I wanted to, and I think cream cheese or sour cream would just be a better option. But like I said, this was a really good recipe. It turned out super yummy, and it was not hard at all to put together. These are ingredients that I usually have in my pantry and freezer all of the time, so this is a really good go-to recipe for me whenever I've had a busy day, don't have a lot of mental energy to put toward dinner, but still want to provide a good meal for my family. This was a definite win. You know how sometimes you just feel like being creative in the kitchen? Well, that's the explanation for this next recipe. In my mind, I felt like browning some sausage and then adding it to pancake mix was going to be this delicious, remarkable, game-changing recipe. It actually was pretty good, and it opened up my eyes to some new possibilities that I'm going to make sure and create in future videos. What I really liked about this recipe was how you could freeze it and it could be such a good on-the-go breakfast. It had protein, carbs, everything that you need for a healthy morning meal. So the first thing I'm going to do is start browning my sausage, and then I'm going to put together my pancake recipe. I'll make sure and leave these recipes down below so you don't have to write this down. I used my whole grain flour for half of the recipe, and also I used 1 cup of all-purpose flour. But if you don't want to use the fresh ground flour, you can just use 2 cups of all-purpose flour. I added 1 tablespoon of baking powder and a half teaspoon of baking soda with 1 teaspoon of salt, and 2 tablespoons of sugar. I also added 2 large eggs and 2 cups of milk. I'm going to mix all of that together, and then when everything is nice and combined, I just decided to add in the sausage into the pancake batter, and I'm going to mix it all really well. I've got this really nice large griddle that fits on 2 eyes of my stove. It's perfect for making pancakes. I'll link it down below in case you want to check one out for your kitchen, but I love this griddle. It is really nice to make a lot of pancakes all at once. I'm just going to spoon out 1/4 cup of the pancake mixture for each pancake, and then allow them to cook for probably 3 to 4 minutes on one side, and then flip them over. I'm not the best pancake flipper, and I always mess up on the first batch, so it gets better as I go along, but this first set of pancakes had to go on the bottom of the plate so nobody could see them. I was also trying to think of an inexpensive side to go with these pancakes, and I had some apples that were in the refrigerator and needed to be used. I've really been trying to not allow fresh fruits and vegetables to spoil or go bad before I get to them, and I thought this was a really good opportunity to use some apples, and it also paired really well with the syrup and the pancakes. This recipe probably made 18 medium-sized pancakes, plenty for my family, and several left over for breakfast the next day. What I really liked about this recipe is how it opened my eyes to different possibilities of mix-ins for pancakes. If you have ever done that, let me know below what you like to mix into your pancake batter. But I had this vision of pecan pie pancakes, and I cannot wait to try to create that in a recipe and bring it to you very soon. Until then, I hope you give this recipe a try and come back and let me know what you and your family thought about it. The next recipe we had this week was a chicken and wild rice soup. I have been searching for a good source of wild rice for a while now. I found wild rice at places like Walmart or Aldi, but I wasn't really happy with the quality of the ingredients. There was always something added that I didn't like, but I found some really good, inexpensive wild rice from Thrive Market. Thrive Market isn't sponsoring today's video, but it's just a place that I have found that has a lot of good, healthy food ingredients that my family has really enjoyed, and I thought maybe you might want to browse around their app as well. I will leave a link for a discount in case you do want to get started with Thrive Market, but I have been really happy with all of the things that I found. For this recipe, I'm going to saute 1/2 of an onion and 3 or 4 stalks of celery. I chopped them up and sauteed them in about 2 tablespoons of butter in my Dutch oven. While that was sauteing, I chopped up probably a cup of baby carrots. You can use any kind of carrots, or even a can of carrots will be just fine. After the onions and celery have softened, I'm going to add the carrots and about 2 cups of kale that I had left over from last week's recipes. If you saw last Friday's video, I had made a soup with kale and kielbasa sausage that really turned out good. I wanted to make sure and use the rest of the bag of kale before it went bad, so I just added that to this chicken soup recipe, but it is a totally optional ingredient and you can feel free to leave it out. After everything is sauteed and softened, I'm going to add about 6 to 8 cups of chicken broth. I made this chicken broth at home, but you can use a store-bought chicken broth. Either way will be just fine. And I'm also going to add 1 cup of that wild rice. I chopped up about 2 cups of rotisserie chicken to add as well. I'm going to season it with about 2 or 3 teaspoons of salt and about a teaspoon or so of black pepper, and then just leave it on the stove to simmer until the rice is good and done. I accidentally left mine to cook too long and all of the broth was absorbed, but it ended up tasting really good, more like a casserole than a soup. But if that happens to you, you can just add a little bit of water to reconstitute it, but it will be fine either way. I had made some sourdough bread and we had that with this soup, but cornbread would also be a really good side for this dish. This was a nice, comforting dinner to have this week, but it was really easy to put together, which is my absolute favorite. Our last recipe today is a chicken taco recipe that's a little bit unconventional, but turned out to be really good. I think you're gonna like this one as well. I've tried to get back in the habit of using my sourdough starter again, and so I do have have a lot of extra starter to use. So for this recipe, I decided to make my own tortillas using my sourdough discard and a couple of other ingredients from the pantry. If you don't want to make your own, that's totally fine. Just buy some at the store. And also, if you do want to make your own, but you don't have a sourdough starter going, I will also leave a traditional tortilla recipe down below that does not call for sourdough. I just really like it when I can find a good use for my sourdough discard that I know is going to add some beneficial probiotics to my family's dinners without them even knowing. It's been a while since I made homemade tortillas, and I forgot how easy it was. It didn't take a lot of extra time to prepare, and I think that the end result is really worth the little bit of extra effort you have to put into making the tortillas at home. For the tortilla mix, I just put together 1 cup of sourdough discard and added 1.5 cups of all-purpose flour. I also added a teaspoon of baking powder and a teaspoon of salt. And then you're going to need to add some kind of fat to the recipe. You can either use lard, olive oil, melted butter, but I used about 1/4 cup of olive oil and then just a little bit of warm water, maybe about 1/4 cup. After you mix everything together really well, you can knead it for about 5 or 6 minutes and then let it rest for 30 minutes or so before you come back to it. After you let it rest, divide it into about 10 or 12 sections and press them flat. I have a tortilla press, but it's not very good quality, so it doesn't do a very good job, so I just used a glass and my fingers to roll them out instead. And then brown them on both sides on a greased griddle or skillet. These are really good, and if you've never tried making your own homemade tortillas, I think you will really like them, so maybe you can give this a try when you have a few minutes extra. For the tacos, I'm gonna slice up 2 bell peppers and an onion. I'm gonna saute them in about 2 tablespoons of olive oil. And then I had a head of cabbage that I really needed to use. I didn't want it to go bad, and I've just been putting off finding a way to use it. So I decided to try to use it in my tacos tonight. I'm gonna slice it up. Probably would have been better if I had diced it instead, but either way works fine. While my bell peppers and onions are finishing up sauteing, I'm gonna add 2 tablespoons of olive oil and about 3 cups of rotisserie chicken that I have shredded up. I'm going to season the chicken with about a tablespoon of cumin and a teaspoon or so of salt. I'm just going to heat that through and allow it to get a little bit crispy, but not overdone. After the peppers and onions have sauteed, I'm going to add in the cabbage to the skillet just to soften it up a bit. I don't want it to be completely cooked down. I still want it to have a crunch, but I did want it to have a little bit of a cooked flavor. After all of the vegetables are softened, now it's time to put the tacos together. Just add a little bit of chicken and some vegetables to each taco. I topped mine with some sour cream and cilantro, and I think that this dinner was my very favorite this week. I really enjoyed the extra flavor from the homemade tortillas, and I think all of these unique flavors blended together really well to make a delicious dinner. I hope these ideas helped you to create a new meal plan for your family that will help you stick to your food budget. Again, I hope that you will share all of your family's favorite frugal meal ideas. I love to get all of the ideas that you share with me down in the comments, and they really help whenever I'm trying to prepare a new video, so be sure to leave all of your ideas down below. Again, if you haven't subscribed to the channel, I hope that you will do that. Also, sharing the video with others really helps the channel to grow and reach more and more families, so I hope you will consider doing that as well. Thanks again for being here today. I hope you have a wonderful week. I love you, and I will see you again next time.